Hello everyone, welcome. Today we'll study about kinematics. So first we'll study what is kinematics. Kinematics is a study of motion or the trajectory or how it will go or the path which it will follow, its velocity. It's all motion based characteristic and we'll not study about the cause, which causes the motion, just like force or something or the force which is hit in which angle or something like that. Now before studying all these things, we need to know what are the main things we'll need in studying of this kinematics. So here we go first. You will need to know about velocity, that is initial and final velocity. You will need to know about acceleration. You will need to know about displacement, and you will need to know about time. Now, as you've seen, I've already written all the units and all the units of the variables which I've stated below. Velocity has meter per second. Acceleration is meter per second square. Displacement is meter, and time is second. Now, before starting again, we need to know these three equations, which are known as the equation of kinematics. First is v is equal to u plus at, that is final velocity is equal to initial velocity plus or minus the product of acceleration and time. I'll tell you about the plus and minus thing which we have used here. Then comes v squared, that is final velocity square is equal to u square plus or minus 2s, that is initial velocity square plus or minus 2 times the displacement and acceleration. Then comes the third equation, which is known as a displacement equation. This is S, that is displacement is equal to ut, that is initial velocity and the product of time plus or minus the product of half into acceleration into time square. This is the third equation. Now the plus or minus which is used here is for all the three vectors which I showed you, that is velocity, acceleration, displacement. As we know, this vector is anything which has a magnitude and a direction. So the plus or minus basically tells you about the direction, whether it is going in a plus direction or it's going in a negative direction. The choice of direction or the coordinate axis is completely yours, but be sure to use the same coordinate axis throughout, because it will just create a confusion for yourself. Now let's just interpret what does the first equation say. First equation says v is equal to u plus or minus 8. So for this I've drawn a small graph here. If you just see this, this is a time graph with respect to this velocity. Velocity is on the y-axis, time is on the x-axis. So u is the initial velocity, which means velocity when you start it, means velocity when time is equal to 0, t is equal to 0. So this is the graph starts from here. So it means the initial velocity u, this graph shows the initial velocity. And rest, as you see, as t increases, we have considered it this is an, if you want to know, this is an uniformly accelerated motion. Acceleration is constant, as you see. To find the acceleration, you need to find the slope of this line, which would give you the acceleration, which would be v minus u by t, as you can even see from the equation. Now, to understand this equation in a simpler way, I would like you to recall y is equal to mx plus c. Don't you see the similarity between this equation? Whereas y is the final velocity, x is time, m is acceleration, which is like the slope of the line, and c is the initial intercept. It means the initial velocity. So far so good. Now we can go ahead, but I would like you to see these things first. That is the relationship between each other, that is velocity, acceleration, and displacement. So as the definition of velocity itself is, the time rate change of displacement is velocity, that is delta s by delta t. I can even write it as ds by dt in differential form. Therefore v is equal to ds by dt. Now what does acceleration says? Is the time rate of change of velocity. So again we use the same way, delta v by delta t, that is dv by dt in differential form, and as we know v is equal to ds by dt, I substitute here and I get it d square s by dt square, which means acceleration is the double differential of time, double differential of displacement with respect to time. I'm sorry for that mistake. We can even write acceleration as v dv by ds. Now if you look at this, I can apply a very simple chain rule here. I can multiply and divide with ds. dv by ds stays as it is, ds by dt as you know is velocity. Therefore acceleration is v dv by ds.